Hey guys, Josh here from Sportitude Running, and it's shoe review time, and in my hand I hold the Mizuno Wave Rider 25. This shoe here has just landed in Australia around the end of April, early May, and let me tell you, this is going to be a fun review because I like what Mizuno have done with this shoe. And what we're going to do is we're going to dive into the reasons why in today's review. So, like all I've done in the reviews gone by, we'll talk about the engineering of this shoe, break it down from the outsole, the midsole and the upper, profile the runner and foot type that could be considering this shoe, give you all the information that you need at home to either throw this into your shoe rotation or not. So without further ado, let's get stuck in. Okay guys, before I get dialing into what this shoe is all about, let's talk about the foot type that could be considering the Mizuno Wave Rider 25. Now, it has been a neutral shoe for 25 years, and what that means is on the medial side through here, we don't have any extra arch support. It's in theory the same geometry on the medial side as it is the lateral side. So when you've got a neutral foot type, it might look something like this. So you'll have a foot type or a higher arch structure like so. So when that runner comes through their gait cycle, you'll see a little bit of air between the arch and the ground. And when they get ready to position themselves, engage to toe off, the pressure will either be through the central part of the foot or they'll favour that lateral side towards that fourth and fifth metatarsal before they toe off. So that's technically like an underpronated or a supinated foot type. Then you'll have the runner that has a foot that doesn't look too dissimilar to this. Static position will be flat in the arch, but again, when that runner comes through their gait cycle, the majority of the pressure will be through the central part of the foot before they get ready to then position their foot to toe off as well. So we're talking all things neutral foot types with the Wave Rider 25. All right, guys, let's talk about the Wave Rider 25 because that's what we're here to do. First things first, talk about the outsole. So underneath the shoe itself, you can see this marbly coloured rubber. So from the forefoot right through to the heel, you have full ground contact. So what that essentially means is Mizuno have strategically placed their rubber to protect the midsole from every single phase of the gait cycle. Now that's from contact, mid starts to toe off. Now, traditionally, what Mizuno have done with the Wave Rider and what they do with all of their running shoes is they do put a harder wearing rubber on the back lateral component of the heel. That's just so that they can protect the asset being the cushioning system for that heel strikers. Generally speaking, when heel strikers make contact with the ground, they tend to put a little bit more force through the shoe. Hence why brands will always put a harder wearing rubber towards the back component of that lateral heel. And then as you come through to the forefoot, the rubber is a little bit lighter and a fraction softer. So it's going to offer a relatively smooth but responsive toe off. And that's exactly what I experienced with this shoe. And I think a lot of it has to do with the structure and integrity of this outsole. Now, in comparison to the Wave Rider 24, initially it's pretty hard to pick up the variances. It's still full ground contact. Everything looks pretty similar at the back of the shoe itself. But what I want to point out to you at home is the outsole setup with the Rider 24 is so to design a little bit more flexibility through the midsole. So we have through here, we've got 1, 2, and almost 2 or 2/3 essentially flex screws the horizontal bracket through the forefoot. Now that's to encourage the shoe to bend a little bit more through that last phase of the gait cycle, and the main reason they had to do that with this shoe was because the cushioning system was a little bit denser in the midsole in comparison to what they've executed with the 25. And when you look at the 25 now through that forefoot, the horizontal flex screws start on the lateral side and they finish just on this medial border through here. So Mizuno have filled in that rubber on that line of essentially where your first metatarsal head sits right through here and all the way to the end point of the toe off and just before after mid starts as well. So just before your first metatarsal and after mid starts, that medial wedge through here is encapsulated. Now that's to give the shoe a little bit more structure and integrity through that forefoot, because you have guessed it, they have made the foam softer. Probably my favorite asset of the Wave Rider 25. They have really got the foam right, and I'm loving what they are doing underneath the foot through here. And while we're moving on to the midsole, let's talk all things stack heights first up. So what we have with this shoe is we have a little bit of an increase in the 25 from the 24. So the stack height in my hand through here, men's and women's, is a 36mm heel to a 24mm forefoot. Now that's a heel to toe gradient of 12. in comparison to last year, we had a 32-20 both men's and women. So still that 12mm heel to toe drop. There's just a little bit more foam underneath the foot, which is great. So as I touched on before, the cushioning is where it's at with the Wave Rider 25. So in conjunction with the extra stack height, they have placed their Mizuno Energy cushioning system on the top layer of this wave plate, the parallel wave plate, and also the bottom layer. So traditionally with the Wave Rider, they've changed the density on top and below this wave plate, but with the Rider 25, their Energy foam runs from the heel right through to the forefoot. And their Energy foam isn't a new foam, it's been on the market now for a couple of years. They've introduced it across a few of their shoes, and they actually had it in the Wave Rider 24 last year. However, they only placed it underneath the wave plate, so it really only made up around about 20 to 25% of the midsole. And when you're looking at this little guy here, it is 100% of the midsole. So it is a really nice, soft ride underneath the foot. And with the increased stack height, I do believe it has to do with the fact they've gone for their softer foam. So if they had the same stack as last year, it might wear down a little bit too much. So by increasing the stack, get a little bit more shoe and a really soft, smooth ride. Now I've only taken this for a couple of runs on a treadmill and for one road run for 8 kilometers. And I was really, really happy with how the midsole performed. I'm a mild over pronator, but traditionally I'll wear a stable neutral shoe. And I gotta say, this little shoe here really does compete with the Brooks Ghosts of the world and also the New Balance 880s. Just a couple of comparisons for you. It is a really smooth, very light and stable ride. Okay guys, let's talk about the upper with the Wave Rider 25. Starting from the back, we have an internal heel counter, which is essentially a plastic structure that sits around the back of the heel through here that runs from the lateral side up and around and finishes down here on the medial side through there. The importance behind a heel counter is to keep that heel nice and stable on contact and then keep the foot as stable as it possibly can going through to mid stance. You don't want to be moving around on that platform too much. So heel counter in a shoe like this is really, really important. In terms of the collar or the memory foam on the collar through here, I kind of like what they've done with this shoe in comparison to the 24. The 24 was pretty good, I didn't mind it, but the 25 is just a little bit lighter and a little bit more effortless with comfort. And it sounds silly, I don't know how to actually diagnose that scientifically, but certainly feels a lot nicer around the back of the heel. Coming through to the midsection of this shoe, the logo itself has kind of been de-specced. So when you look at the logo from the 24 from last year, it was a pretty prominent logo. And on this year's model, they have shaved it right down. So it's a minimalistic Runbird logo. Doesn't add too much weight or nearly any weight at all. And in terms of the overall lockdown up top, you get a really good secure fit with that gusseted tongue. So gusseted tongues, essentially what we're talking about there is a piece of material around about 1 inch to 1.5 inches thick that runs from the tongue down to the medial midsole, and the same thing on the lateral side, from the tongue down to the lateral midsole through there. So it keeps that tongue and that arch nice and secure on the platform as well. Then when we come through to the forefoot, engineered mesh. Again, nice and strong, really well structured, pretty similar fit and feel in regards to the depth through the toe box from the 24. They really haven't changed that in my opinion, but it certainly feels a little bit lighter and it breathes really, really well. That's with me running with my Steigen socks, my Features, and also my Stance socks, one of my 3 go-tos at the moment. And I didn't have any complaints whatsoever with the fit and feel across all 3 socks, all differing a little bit with thickness, of course. Okay guys, while we're talking all things upper, let's talk all things widths. So the men's I hold in my hand here comes in a standard D width and a 2E. So standard and a marginally broader option, which is fantastic. And the ladies, which I hold in my hand through here, is a standard B and also a D on offer as well. Now, of course, when we're talking widths, there'll be some specific colors that'll only be available, but at least they're making it broader with regards to the accessibility for you, the running community out there. I love it when brands make their shoes in widths. It essentially tells us, the shoe fitters, that they believe in the engineering, and it's fantastic when they do that. Okay, guys, wrapping up the Mizuno Wave Rider 25. I really like what they have done with this shoe. The Wave Rider series has always had its place in the running shoe industry. There has always been those runners that have just gravitated towards that shoe, whether it be an updated version or someone getting into the brand for the first time that fits this category. There's always great feedback with regards to the riders. Now, no surprises here, a bit like every brand, they have some hits and they have some misses along the way. So with this shoe here, I can honestly say it is my favorite rider I've ever run in, And now we're talking maybe the Wave Rider 16 was the only other one I can really say I loved running that shoe. I put some serious kilometers into the Wave Rider 16 and went through 3 pairs in a year. But in regards to the Wave Rider 25, this will be an absolute contender for my mileage shoe. I really like how it feels underneath the foot. Traditionally, I don't like shoes with a higher heel to toe drop. 12 millimeters underneath the foot, which is considerable. It's kind of on the higher spectrum with regards to all the other shoes out there, but it doesn't feel like that when you're running in it. The consistency of the foam from the heel through to the forefoot with that full-length Mizuno Energy foam and a marginal increase in stack height, it really is a very nice shoe to run in. So if you've got any questions, queries or comments on this shoe, please drop it in the comments field below. If you've been a Mizuno runner previously and you want to let us know how you have gone, please drop it down below. If you haven't subscribed to our channel, guys, hit that red button, stay notified, and we will keep you up to date with more and more shoe reviews in 2021. And until next time, stay safe, happy running, be kind to each other, and we will see you out on the road. Take care.